Hello, I'm Kerry Gorgone with Appfire, and this is the best project portfolio management show by Appfire. Today, we are addressing the question to Gantt or not to Gantt, because the Gantt chart is, of course, the most commonly used project schedule chart. Ray Sheen is going to join us today, and he's going to tell us about whether or not you should even use this thing, what it is, what it's good for, what you should do instead. Ray is a certified PMP with the Project Management Institute. He's also a certified Scrum Master and certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, and he's the president and founder of Product and Process Innovation. So stick around for 10 minutes of really valuable information.
Appfire presents the best project portfolio management show by Appfire.
So the Gantt chart, Ray, oft used.
Often misused. Often misused is a better term. The Gantt chart is, it's a calendar chart, a scheduling chart, and it could also be called a horizontal bar chart.
Okay.
The way that the thing is structured, imagine a timeline going across the top of the chart. And then as you go down the rows, each row going down is another task or activity. And on each of those rows, there will be a bar. And the left side of the bar starts on the day that activity is supposed to start. And the right side of the bar is on the day that activity is supposed to end. And that means that the width of the bar is the duration of the activity. So if it's a 1 week activity, it starts on this Monday and ends on this Friday. If it's a 1 month activity, it starts on the 1st of the month and ends on the 30th of the month. Now that's how it's structured. The Gantt chart, incidentally, though, is it's named after Henry Gantt, who developed it in the early 1900s. He developed it as a tool for measuring employee productivity, and in particular, employee productivity on systematic routine actions. Now, systematic routine, that doesn't really fit a lot of the stuff that we do in projects. A lot of times the stuff we're doing in projects, it's unique, it's special, it's one of a kind, it's the first time we've ever done it. How could that be classified as systematic and routine?
That makes it so in software development, and every new feature is different.
Exactly.
Every new program is different.
Now, the Gantt chart has the advantage of communicating the timing. It's great for laying out that plan and showing the timing of when things should start. It's also good for tracking from the standpoint of I can drop a line right down through the day, whatever the day might be. Today happens to be, for instance, Norwegian Independence Day. So I can drop a line down through today, and I can look to see which bars should be completed, which bars should be underway and how much progress should have been made, and which bars are ones that we haven't started yet. So I can assess my performance, my progress very nicely. But, and here's the huge but, it assumes that all the activities were systematic and routine, and therefore the duration of those activities was precisely accurate, and the start time and the stop time were predictable, and we knew when that was going to happen. And if that's not the case, well, then we don't know what we're measuring.
That's not the case ever. Probably, right? That you know precisely how long a thing is going to take. There's variables. Even if you're working with the same team, there's, illness, or maybe your tools go down. There's things that happen. So
that's right. It kind of makes sense at a large aggregate level because those things will kind of balance out. So on a major phases of a project, okay, that might make sense. But when we get down to the task level, there's just too many things happening that are unpredictable, that don't fit well. And so I don't like using the Gantt chart, especially on any kind of a project that has uncertainty, unpredictability, new development, new whatever. It's okay to use a Gantt chart on routine things. So let's say I have a project of, I need to go out and do a preventive maintenance on a piece of equipment on the shop floor, and it's going to take us 3 days. I can have a Gantt chart on that, and I can measure that because I've done this preventive maintenance before, and I know what it takes. And it's great for measuring that, for that routine project that we've done time and again. But when you get something unique, it's nonsense to measure yourself against it.
So what do you do instead?
Oh, You mean we still have to follow a schedule on our projects?
I mean, ideally, right?
Yeah, there is that, isn't there? Well, what I prefer to do is if it's an agile type project, I'll work the Kanban board. I'll work the board that says, okay, these are all the tasks. Which ones are in progress? Which ones are done? We move it through the Kanban board from column to column. I can then get a very quick and visual sense of what's happening. I can follow it through on that board. If it's a project where there's just lots of different branches, we might do this, we might do that, then we could do this, and then we might have to do that. I create what's called a network diagram, essentially a flow chart of the activities, and I follow my path through that flow chart. And I just cross off each task or each activity as it's being done, tracking it through the flow chart, making sure that I'm keeping up on all the places and working my way through it.
And what about dates, Ray? Because people do get attached to their dates, and you do sometimes need to make changes based on circumstances that have arisen, or holidays like Norwegian Independence Day. Maybe you forgot to take that into account.
So dates are important in projects, clearly. What I'll do with that date is I like to actually work the schedule from that date backwards. So I look at the date and I say, well, if I'm going to meet this date, I have to have this stuff done by this date, and I have to have this done by that date, and I have to have this done. And I work backwards with mini milestones, and then I work to those mini milestones and track those mini milestones along the way. One of the problems or challenges we have if we use that Gantt chart is we drop the line through and we find out, okay, we're supposed to have had task 17 done yesterday and it's not done. So now what does that mean? Does that mean that I shouldn't start task 18? Task 18 was supposed to start today. Do I not start it today? Do I still work on 17, or do I start 18 and still work on 17? What's going on there, and how do I communicate this with everyone else? I would rather have people talk, and that's where the handoffs that happen on the Kanban board or with the network diagram, we actually hand off tasks and activities. We can still monitor that date that we're coming up to, that mini milestone, and track to that and say, okay, there's this much work left. Are we going to meet that mini milestone or not? But I work that looking at it backwards and tracking to those milestones.
Why do people use the Gantt chart for so many things that it's not suited for if there's other options like the Kanban board?
Well, one is it's a very easy chart to understand. Once you see it, once you look at it, you know exactly how to read it. It makes sense. It is logical. And it is what's been taught in project management programs, whether we're talking at the college level or the PMP. That is what's taught as the project management schedule chart. It's the preferred chart because it lends this aura of predictability and accountability. And I can draw that line there and say, you're ahead of schedule, you're behind schedule. I know exactly where you should be, and I can hold you accountable to that, which is okay if that work really was predictable. Where it becomes a problem is holding people accountable to something they can't control. But that's why we like it. It gives us accountability.
Now you can do these things, with kind of a wall and some sticky notes and stuff, or you can do them using technology. Obviously at Appfire, we have the big picture suite. We have a lot of really robust things you can do. It sounds like it's the sort of thing you can keep track of on a whiteboard, even like whether
Absolutely.
we have a whiteboards app that integrates with Jira, but you could do it like on an actual whiteboard. So it's not like that complicated, what you're saying. It's just a change of approach.
Right. And when you're focused on getting the work done rather than on managing the chart, you actually are going to make more progress. Let me tell you a story. I was working on a project. This was many years ago. I was working on a project. It was a large, complex project and was being managed with Gantt charts. And like I said, large, complex project, literally hundreds of people on it, several different locations involved. And it was several years into the project, and we were about 6 to 8 months behind schedule. Overrun. It was not going well. Well, the project leader was canned, new person brought in. I was leading a sub-team within this project at the time. The new project leader came in. He looked at all of our Gantt charts. Nobody was on schedule. Nobody was even close to being on schedule, the Gantt charts. He threw them all out, said, forget the Gantt chart. And he got that network diagram, that flow chart. He said, that's what we're going to work to. And he added one other thing to it. He had a big rubber chicken that whoever was working on the task that was farthest behind in the flow chart carried that rubber chicken around with them everywhere they went. When they're at their desk, it sat on their desk. When they went to the lunchroom, took them with them to the lunchroom. Go to a meeting, it sits on the table in front of them, and you have that rubber chicken until you complete your task and can hand it off to the next person. And then they have the rubber chicken until they complete it and hand it off. And so it both spotlighted what was behind schedule, what we had to work on. When the person with the rubber chicken walks into your office and says, hey, I need help, you know that they're the number one priority. You're going to help them.
That's a horrible story, right?
No, it was a lot of fun. So when somebody gets their task done and they can hand off the chicken, if you get done early and you hand it off to somebody else and they say, well, I'm not scheduled to start on this until next Monday. Well, yeah, but you're carrying the rubber chicken around with you from now on. So you get working on it. And everybody had the chicken at one time or another, because just in the flow, as we went through from this step to that step, it became your turn with the chicken. So it wasn't like it was punishment. It was just viewed as you're the priority. That's how we indicated the number one priority. You don't have to use a rubber chicken. I mean, you can use a screaming eagle or whatever else you want to have.
Whatever works.
Whatever works. But the point was it highlighted what was behind schedule and needed to be worked on. And then we worked to get that done and hand it off as quick as we could. And we weren't slaves to some chart that was created literally years earlier when nobody knew what was going to be required. And we threw those out. Instead, we worked with what we really had in front of us.
Great. Thank you so much. I never heard of rubber chicken used as a project management tool. My mind has been opened. If you would like to try
Wonderful.
Big Picture or any of our other apps, whiteboards, you can find those at appfire.com. For more episodes of the best project portfolio management show, visit hub.appfire.com, and we'll see you next time.